So they already released The Crow, Marco.
This is Crow 0.5.
And I guess they re-edited it or something, because when I watched it on Netflix, I was like, this is a way different movie than what we watched.
A bit less gothic.
A bit less gothic, a bit more silly.
But I like what they did with it.
Yeah, but no, obviously we're joking. We're talking about the other Bill Skarsgård revenge film that came out. Was it late last year?
Couldn't have been over a year ago.
I remember watching a trailer for it, going, oh yeah, the Bob's Burgers guy is doing the voice. That's fun.
Is that the Bob's Burgers guy?
Yeah, or Archer.
Okay. Did you know, fun fact, there was an original version of this film where Bill Skarsgård did the voiceover.
Seriously?
Yeah, they still use the same story, like trope of the voice is the voice he heard in the game. So he was imitating the voice from the game.
Because it means
but apparently it didn't test well with like original audiences. So they were like, let's try something new. So there is a version out there where he's doing like a Mortal Kombat-esque. It sounds similar, but it's definitely a lot less. It's lacking.
I wonder if that's available for fun. Like the recent Planet of the Apes, they released the non-CG cut. I mean, that you can watch the film with just the guys in the ping pong suits.
That's
just
so cool.
for the hell of it. And like, there was even a original trailer with Bill Skarsgård doing. Oh,
yeah, but
I never heard that.
On a DVD bonus, this would be like a fun. Like, which version do you want to hear?
Back in the old days of DVDs and Blu-rays, when they were really excited about it, we used to get so many great bonus features.
Yeah.
Now it's dried up. We don't
I
get
remember
anything.
my favorite was Harry Potter going to Diagon Alley and use the remote to touch the bricks. And
I said how I just want a film with like some good action scenes and I don't want to have to think about the plot. And that's what I got here.
Yeah.
I'd say I got a film that was, of the same DNA as like, it's The Raid, but in video game form.
Yeah.
Even with the guy from The Raid playing.
He was from The Raid?
From the first and second Raid. He's like the main heavy in the first one. Then in the second Raid, he gets killed by an even badder ass guy.
a more Asian looking guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they're wasted in Star Wars. The Raid guys are all wasted. And yeah, I remember when that was announced. The Raid guys are in Star Wars. And that'll be cool. They'll be like Kung Fu bounty hunters.
Yeah.
And then they're just there in everyone's favourite scene in Star Wars, the fucking Raphtar sequence with the... You don't remember it?
I've only watched it once on release. But let me ask you the hard-hitting question of the day. If they just put Bill Skarsgård in a black trench, a tight Hot Topic shirt,
You've got the
and some
Crow.
eye makeup, is this a better Crow movie?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you watch The Crow and you were annoyed, watch this. Like, it'll scratch that itch of, like, Bill Skarsgård. If you have a specific itch of Bill Skarsgård killing people in cool ways, here's the film for you.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you're right, though. It's instead of it, if you, like, edited the jacket black, maybe, you basically have a better Crow film.
This puts Bill Skarsgård back in my good books, because it was like he's known for three things, at least to me, the layman, where he's known for it, he's known for The Crow, and he's known for this, at least to me. I know he's been in other
He was in
things.
Barbarian. He was good in that.
Well, I hadn't seen it, so I was like, this puts him back at like a 66% success rate.
Yes.
Because he does. I think this plays to his advantages of being like a physical character actor, more like an It than like a Crow, whereas Crow was using more his acting talents, which maybe it was just the writing, but with this, because he didn't have the ability to speak or hear, it's a lot of facials, it's a lot of like body language, which I think he excels at. Like, he can become a character, whereas I don't know if he can act as one, you know?
Maybe, yeah. Like the original Crow, this film just kind of goes. We are in it. We are training montaging. Like the opening very much the opening sequence is training montage.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted from storytelling in The Crow, where
Let's
they're
just get
like,
to it.
They're punching through it, and by I think it was 20 minutes in, he's like already storming like the first like little base.
Yeah, killing Shoto Copley.
And you know what's happening in the story. To an extent, they don't need to do like, a 20-minute scene to set up a 10-minute scene to get into the movie.
Yeah, I didn't look at where it was filmed.
It was filmed in South Africa.
That explains why Shoto Copley was there.
From District 9 and Chappie fame.
Yeah, allegedly was not an actor, was just friends with the director of District 9, and then has managed to... I mean, he was in A-Team, like he played...
Interesting.
Remember that? He's like had a whole acting career now because he was in the original District 9 short film. He just played like have you watched the original?
No.
It was like a short film that he made, and Shoto was just in it as like a talking head. And then they went, oh yeah, do you want to be Yeah, like
The
do you
main
want to be the main
character.
character in this? Like 80 million, like
The fucking
the Halo
prawns.
movie fell through, so here's the budget for the Halo movie. Do you
Oh,
want to
really?
star in it? Was basically what the story was. But yeah, so it was great seeing him in it. He was in another film that I recently watched that I enjoyed this more than it was Monkey Man, which is of
Yeah.
a similar John Wick type film, and Shoto's in that as a similar out of there. I hope I'm saying his name right, and it's definitely of the ilk of post raid John Wick Deadpool kind of action film.
I think this is a successful adaptation of like a non-superhero Deadpool movie. There's a narrator the whole time. There's a bit of like comedy mixed in with it. I mean, there's a lot of comedy mixed in with it. I think that this is like a good example of you can do it and it doesn't have to be Deadpool.
Exactly.
You know?
The setup is our main character has been wronged by Hilda van der Koit, which seems to be a ruling family in a city, and the world building is purposely aloof because it's one of those things where they don't need to explain it, and if they did explain it, it would just become more ridiculous.
It's like Hunger Games meets The Purge meets something.
There was once chaos, but now I've brought order. It reminded me a lot of when they talk about The Culling. It's like this original short story that you might have read in school where people all come together and pick stones out of a bag. And if you pick the wrong stone, you're the one who gets stoned that year.
Oh, interesting.
So it reminded me of like maybe they looked at that. It was one of these very early dystopian books, short stories. And yes, the setup is that they rule the family, and our main character was rung by them, and then he's trained by a Mr. Miyagi type.
Yes. I'm more opiate addicted.
Yeah. The setup or gimmick of this is that our main character is mute and deaf. So because of that, he is imagining the voices and sounds because he reads lips, and because he has a deep connection with a video game he played. He narrates. His inner voice is the voice of the
video game.
which is
Super Dragon Quest 2 Punch. I'd say Double Dragon, but
that's it. Yeah, I was struggling to remember what Double Dragon was called, but yeah, Double Dragon.
It's like a combination of all those 80s kind of style.
Exactly. And his inner voice is, and the narrator is by the actor who's Bob's Burgers and Archer, and seems to do a very good job. And as you were just saying, similar to like Scarlett Johansson in Her, came in maybe at the last minute and did the voiceover.
It's like this history of people who have been wronged in like voiceovers. Like the guy who played Darth Vader, who thought he was going to be Darth Vader, I guess Scarlett Johansson, and then Bill Skarsgard.
The guy from the American Shameless, he did the entire voiceover of Finding Nemo as the dad. And they went, it doesn't work.
I mean, I just hope these people got paid. That's all I
they
can
got
hope.
paid.
You know, like I hope Bill got paid for this movie for like, you know, all the extra lines he did.
Oh yeah, he did do all that. After he spent years training in the forest with
The shaman. He trains him to fist fight, to knife fight, to gun fight, to subscribe to Bergenbeard.
Nice.
I was thinking that one the whole time.
Nice.
They're in town one day on their local drug run.
During the culling. What do you know?
It's the day of the culling.
The day of the culling. And he decides that this is it. I've had enough. So even though the shaman's like, you're not ready, he's like, fuck you, I am ready. And for about 30, 40 minutes there, it's just relentless. It's off we go to the races.
So the whole time he's seeing his sister, who was also killed on the day of the culling.
Way back when they were kids. So it's like an imaginary.
So he's seeing his little sister, and she's kind of, he doesn't know if she's real or not because he's
a bit crazy. He's a bit loose.
He's also kind of on opioids.
Yeah, I thought she was great.
She was incredible.
I actually think that was maybe underused. I wouldn't have minded more.
I wouldn't mind seeing her more in like the background of some of the action scenes.
Like, and I think that was something that. Yeah, like where the Deadpool humor comes in, where you could have had like a little girl skipping over the corpses or the entrails of
like
dead bodies or something.
Like a Borderlands Tiny Tina kind of character.
But that being said, the moment the chick with the helmet shows up, I was like, oh yeah, that's his sister.
Yes.
Like, I didn't know, like they kind of do a double twist. They almost faint me out because when they lock eyes and look at each other, I was like, oh, it mustn't be his sister, or else they'd have that "it's you" moment. But they double out, they double faked.
I'm like, female character who's, you know, seems to be young,
head of security,
who's wearing a helmet the entire time to obscure. I'm like, okay. But then as soon as she took her mask off, I'm like, do you know what? I kind of see a likeness to the child actor. Along his journey of vengeance, we meet a couple of side characters. So we meet,
I'll do cart stuff.
I'll keep doing cart stuff.
Which was great.
He was like,
I couldn't tell if he was Aussie or English.
Yeah, I don't.
As
No.
you know, like as an Englishman living in Australia, I kind of get a bit warped with the accent sometimes. But I feel like he was English, but then there's times where he sounded Australian.
That was a fun thing. During the movie, it's like sometimes when he's not looking at people, he's like the audio goes muffled. And I'm like,
Right.
that's because he can't see them.
Yeah.
I think they could have lent into that a lot more because sometimes he does just look away and he can still hear what the person's saying.
Yeah, but then you get things like echo when like everyone has to like where the blocking has to be like standing and like and having no form of dynamic movement. Do you remember the Old Spice ads? Like he's that guy.
Oh,
from
he's
the
that
Olds-
guy.
from the- It was amazing that they never like that. Yeah, that he just can't understand him, which I guess sometimes happens with people who lip read. That
Yeah.
like I imagine I would maybe be difficult because of my dumb accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy that they then lean into it, and it's like, oh, we're going to enter him with like the goats and the baskets, and it cuts to him in this ridiculous situation that he's interpreting from the lip reading.
Yeah. Those were great though.
Those were great.
Those little scenes where he's like, and then he's like imagining those scenes. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, this is pretty funny.
I forgot to mention it. The one little thing I liked in The Crow was when he shot. Because, you know, we forget, like, when you watch John Wick, that John Wick would be severely deaf because he wouldn't be able to hit. So in The Crow, when he shoots the guy, he has the whistle in the ear, but probably because he regenerates, the ear heals. So I'm like, oh, okay. But in this, since he can't hear anyway, he can shoot to his heart's content. And
He does a lot of the duck shotgun over like the duck and like put the shotgun right next to his ear to fire and kill someone behind him. And I'm like, that would deafen somebody a lot. But, you know, he's already
since
deaf.
he's already deaf. Yeah. Coincidentally, his brother in a Blade Runner film, I think called
Alexander
Skarsgård, he played a deaf and mute man in David Bowie's son's Netflix movie.
What?
Mute. It was called Mute. It was a Blade Runner-esque film where he was Amish or something, and they didn't believe in tech, so therefore he can't have a voice modulator.
Oh, it's like that Hayden Christensen movie where he goes to that Italian vineyard and sleeps with all the nuns.
What the fuck are you talking?
She's like, I know you cannot speak or hear us, but we... And then they're like, we want you to fuck us.
Hayden Christensen. I think what's interesting about this film is that there isn't really much to discuss.
Yeah.
It's a series of... I wouldn't say they're like the greatest action scenes ever, like if you're comparing it to the John Wicks or the Raids, but what they are is that they are shot pretty well. Like each fight sequence seems to have a new novelty, or it's shot in a way. There's a lot of drone shots, just we put a camera on a drone and we are zipping around.
Yeah, like in the Ice World kind of thing. There was like, I remember like a big drone shot there. I wish the fight scenes were a bit more maybe like thorough. So like, for example, the table fight scene with his sister, not sister, when they first encounter each other. I wish that was... do a rotating around the table, have them fighting using the entire table.
Yeah.
The hallway scene when they're fighting their way out, have that be like a big one take. I want more one takes.
Like you think an Old Boy a little bit.
Yeah, but it's like I feel like this one, it's your very fast, lot of quick camera cuts.
Yeah, and there was vague ideas of like a gory Jackie Chan film with like using random things that we can get our hands on to kill people.
Yeah, and he does change weapons like a lot, like very quickly. Oh my god, the best fight scene though was when he's in the kitchen with the grater and he's like, I'm like, he better use that grater, and he's using it perfectly.
Yeah.
It's like latch it onto somebody, pull. It's like two actions.
Yeah, because it reminded me of like, remember in Tenet? There's the
I
bit.
haven't watched it.
Oh, in Tenet, the main character goes into a kitchen and also gets a grater and has a joke of like, I ordered my gravy half an hour ago, and then fights them, and there's a bit of a disappointing bit. Obviously, it's an Allen film, but so there isn't much blood. Where he does that, he gets the grater, but there's no blood or my cheek. It's just the guy falls down.
He gets someone on the face. He gets someone on like the armpit. You know, I'm like, oh.
And there's some fun stuff where it's like, you know how hard it is to get a cereal company to sponsor like this. So there's some fun stuff with like the idea
I like
of the world.
that though. That's good because that reminds me straight away of The Crow, of the
our annoyance with the lack of characterization of the villains. Yeah,
I'm like, this is perfect. I'm like, these villains feel like they live in this world.
yeah.
You
And
know?
they're over it. They've been in charge for 25 years and they're bored with being in
Whereas
charge.
the villain in The Crow just felt like he just started doing it this week.
Yeah. So the villains all have their own... To be honest with you, I wasn't really paying attention too much to the plot, and whenever they were talking, I was a bit like,
Well, you know, spoiler alert. I mean, we've already spoiled the entire movie. The story is probably... I mean, it's still a good story, but it's probably the weakest part when it tries to get very deep.
they do most of the time, but the film, and whenever it tries to be a film. When it tries to pluck at the emotions, I think that's when it falters. And I think they could have just committed to just doing a balls to the wall action fest.
I was still more attached to these characters than to anyone in The Crow.
Well, that's it, guys. So you don't need 20, 30 minutes of like them staring at each other lovingly for us to be connected.
Just give me a couple of weird flashbacks.
Oh yeah, I can understand why you'd miss his sister. She's kind of funny.
Like, what if The Crow started with him as the Crow, and we learnt the story through flashbacks, or
you mean like the
original Crow, or through like when he killed a member of the posse,
he learns a bit more
about it because he isn't quite sure, but he knows he has this mission. Man, fuck the new Crow. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, fuck it. My favourite like joke payoff was that turns out he did follow the plan and
I was like, please tell me. And they're like, you did your part perfectly.
Wonderful distraction, by the way. It was great.
I'm like, fuck, that's so good.
In that hallway fight scene at the end, like that was the first where I was like, how many guys are there firing and missing them right now? Like,
there is a lot of like bullet immunity.
Yeah, bullet immunity, but it leans into the video game aspect. It reminded me a bit of, did you ever watch the first person film Hardcore Henry? Like, that's a film that is basically a live action video game where it's just all first person and you are just going from one gameplay sequence to the next. There's a parkour chase sequence, there's a gun sequence, there's a fight. And it's really cool that they shot it all in first person, but it reminded me of that, in which you were just going from level to level to level, basically. And I thought they showed a lot of restraint where they weren't leaning into, like, you know, like having the digital, like, Scott Pilgrim text coming up, going like, level 2. Like,
you could see a version of this movie
they
where
lean too into it.
Or like there was like health bars or something.
Yeah, or verses appears.
But I think the furthest they go with that is just the sister's visor. I'm like, but they use it only a few times and it's fun.
The visor makes sense because then we get to have like a stunt actor in too.
Yes. I'm like, oh, action, she better put her helmet on.
But also she's meant to be head of security, so wearing the helmet, it makes sense in that video game logic. I suppose the film then, the ending, the twist on a twist. Yes, it is his sister, but turns out this is his mother too.
Yes, he's a von Wildebrand.
Yeah, that's when I was like, what? What's going on? Turns out all these flashbacks he's been having were with his mother, but they're not in a palace. They're in a dilapidated house when he feels like it. And it just doesn't make sense.
So during, like, I don't know, one of his first cullings when he was a boy, he was made to kill the shaman's family, and then the shaman gets away because he chokes.
And one of the shamans, his son is deaf.
Yes.
So when the shaman captures him, he makes him deaf and almost replaces him with his son, basically, and makes him believe somehow, because obviously he taught him sign language, because the shaman, assuming he knew sign language because of his son, taught him to believe that all of this is her fault.
Well, it's like a lot of like, he'd be like, well, let me hit this opium. Is this your mum? No? Bang.
Yeah. So it's a really dark, weird twist, but then it's fun that then the Mr. Miyagi sensei character is actually the big final bad, and he appears inexplicably at the end.
Especially since they double down halfway through the movie and you see how he saves him from being hung. And I'm like, okay. And then it's like, oh, that was also a fabrication.
Yeah, it was all fabrications. And it's one of those, if you think about it too much, the film will definitely fall apart.
The second and probably the most glaring weakness is don't look into the story too hard, because as you get into the later bits where they're trying to wrap up a couple of things, it's just a bit quick and a bit
with the whole
bullshitty.
swearing. Like, it was all right with the whole, remember she goes, I'm launching all 5 fingers at her.
Yeah.
Like, then they use that to get out of it. I forget the actress's name, but I thought Jean Grey did well as still looks incredibly gorgeous.
Oh, looks amazing as the day I lost her.
There you go. Like the reveal that she's kind of been crazy because obviously she lost her kids, or she lost her son, and
So she's just like a shut-in now as well, as due to that.
and that's someone who is so obsessed with being in control. It bothers her so much that one guy is still out there, and she's afraid he's going to come back and get her. So she's convinced herself that he is this immortal spiritual thing. And I guess I'm probably giving him too much credit, but I wonder if they looked at like Hitler in the bunker on his last days, you know, like that kind of like obsessed with being in control.
I mean, that's what you'd want,
stuff.
wouldn't you? That's like that's how you'd want the character.
I mean, the German name, her name is literally Hilda. Like, you know, and they're meant to stick out because it's clearly even though we've said African, like it had a Thai, Asian kind of like, they're the invading forces type vibe.
Yeah.
Not that they are thinking that much about it. I suppose it's just talking about cool fight scenes. I guess the highlight ridiculous one is the the Christmas town. So we finally get to see what the culling is.
Yeah.
And the culling is a television presentation in which they, dressed as serial characters, like cartoon characters, they kill the rebels, who it's revealed aren't even rebels anymore. They're just randoms because people expect it, and we've got to show order and unity. So, and that sequence is pretty, like, out there, insane. But I would say, as fun as the film is, there isn't like a standout, that fight scene was incredible.
Yeah.
Like, they're all just pretty good.
There's like some small, like, standouty moments, but I wouldn't say like there's particular parts of the movie that are my favorite. I just feel like it's a good movie, and then it just kind of ramps down towards the end.
It's a film that's what it was for me. Was Friday night, I went on Netflix and went, oh yeah, this film.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's a Netflix movie.
But it was good though.
It was good.
And I enjoyed it for what it was.
Not every film needs to be a holy shit, this is incredible. Only cost 20 million, which is something that you want to hear, where The Crow cost $1 million, and then Borderlands,
and they only made 30, I think just about 30, I think.
Just about to be released online. And then the Borderlands, which felt like it was in and out immediately. Like, even... Did Dan show you that, like, it was just sitting on YouTube? Like, random channels were just uploading Borderlands, and I guess Lionsgate were like, fuck it. Because Lionsgate have now fouled on Borderlands and The Crow. So they were meant to be their two big... And Lionsgate is a good... You know, they're not like a big company, but they're big enough to take some swings on some things. And they go and do Borderlands and The Crow. So, like, one film's trying to chase Guardians and the other one's trying to chase Deadpool. But neither of them did it. To me, like, this is a film that I think would be... You know, if it was back in the day when you'd find it maybe in the bargain bin and you'd be like, oh, what's this? And you go and have a great time with it. And then with this, you'll see it on Netflix and you're like... What a fun time. Like, you go in, don't go in expecting anything. Just go in. It is what it's called, Boy Kills World. And it does what it says on the tin. It's a boy who kills world.
Yeah. This is, if you were thinking about, oh, what should I watch tonight? Netflix has recommended the Bill Skarsgard,
Revenge movie. Make sure it's the good one.
Which should I pick? Pick Boy Meets World.
Boy Kills World.
What did I say?
Boy Meets World.
Boy Meets World. Boy Kills World. And if you see The Crow, just don't watch it.
Just don't watch it.
If you're a Crow fan...
Just watch the Brandon Lee one.
Yes. But also, picture him with white makeup and dark eyeshadow, and then this is just a Crow film.
Yeah, put it on mute, play The Cure.
Yes.
Or like some REM or something. That's me in the corner as he chops someone's head off. And yeah, that'd be good.
Tell us which Bill Skarsgard movie you preferred. I mean, is this just a better version of The Crow?
So someone's obviously in charge of The Crow Instagram. So they're having to like get any positive like thing to then repost. It's like one guy who's dressed up like Bill's Crow, or like, I actually really like the movie, you know they're in trouble when they have to grab random tweets.
Yeah.
Like, and not just critical or YouTube heads saying it.